Hey comrades, what's up? So I finished the Saga of Tanya the Evil light novel volume 6. It was good. It spends this one goes and spends way too much time with like the Brits and the Russians and all that. So I was not as into it as I have been in previous volumes. But I felt like it was shorter. I'm going to listen to the audiobook, so I don't exactly know, but I felt like I finished it quicker, if you will, than the previous volumes. So winter's here, and we spend the first chapter with Tanya and her crew just talking about winter, dealing with winter. Serevrikov, her like adjutant right-hand woman, tries to convince her that like the spring offensive is going to be the real problem because mud is going to cause more problems in winter. Because with winter you just got to get through it, and they're able to kind of get through it because they're utilizing what do you call it? They requisition a bunch of armaments and material from the locals. Right, from the Federation army, so they have like socks and guns that work, like they have like Kalashnikovs, right, AK-47s, if you will, and so things are going pretty well for them, and they're holding their own, and they get like attacked a couple times, and they're able to like push back and defeat all of them, and things are pretty good. And then we spend some time with like Central Command and like the two generals talking about bullshit. And one of the things they determine is that there's some issues with the Italians. What do they call them? They call them something like Italian sounding, where they're like the Italians are making deals with like the United States or the Brits to like hold war games on the border of Germany, essentially. Not with any like real intent to do anything, but just to kind of shake up them so that they like move forces away from like areas where they're actually engaged with like the Brits and the Russians. And the Germans, the Empire sends Colonel Uger, who is Tanya's friend from like the War College, over there to kind of like figure out what's going on with the Dalshia League or something. No, the Kingdom of Ildoa, that's what they call it. So the Kingdom of Ildoa, and he kind of gets to run around a little bit, and then he's like kind of threatens some stuff back, and they go back and forth. But they essentially decide that they're kind of like, we've got to move troops down there, just kind of hang out, and so they pull like Tanya's Salamander Kampfgruppen, or like her mobile force down there to kind of like chill, closer to like they come to the capital with the intent that they can be kind of more mobile to go east or south. Kind of deal with whatever they need to deal with. And there's a lot of like politicking with people who are not the main character as far as I'm concerned, not with Tanya and her crew. But then we get some of her in the capital, and she's like enjoying a cafe and like talking to some locals about stuff. And then she gets like really mad again. Oh, at some point she and her crew like rescue the Ukraine, essentially, the buffer kingdom, the locals next to Germany, who are like part of the Federation but don't want to be part of the Federation because they don't like communism. That the ones they kind of made a deal with in the end of book 5. And so they rescue a bunch of them, but we see that whole instance from the perspective of Colonel Drake, who's the British Marine mage, and I can't remember his name. It's like Gunther or something, or Gustav or whatever. He's the Russian Federation guy who was in the Gulag, and now he's out, and he's also a colonel. And then we get a lot of Mary Sue just being a total dipshit. Which is kind of interesting because it's like her dad was this very notable mage and like all this stuff, and then Mary Sue comes in and she's like, I'm going to do all this stuff, and she's just very idealistic and she's very terrible. Like, she just keeps doing dumb shit that doesn't make any sense and keeps like making deals behind like her superior officer's back for like weird shit that she doesn't understand. And so it's kind of it's like the complete opposite of Tanya. She's like a young woman, but she's not competent at all, probably because she wasn't like a 45-year-old Japanese serial worker before she got isekai'd over to this world. Anyway, so there's some drama with that and all this stuff, and I kind of don't care. Christmas goes through, they do Christmas stuff, I guess. We spent a lot of time with like people who aren't Tanya and her crew, and not even like, we spent a lot of time with like Colonel Drake and stuff, and I'm like, I don't like this character or any of the characters associated with him. They're just kind of boring. So that kind of dragged. That dragged a lot. That was like chapters. Like these light novels have like 5 to 7 chapters, and like at least 2 chapters were just like this bullshit. We also got a little bit of our homie comrade old man pervert who wants to bang Tanya. Just, and again, it's like, I don't mind how it's written because it's interesting sometimes to get a little bit of like the opposite side's perspective on like how battles or stuff's going. Because we see things are not going well for the Federation at all. Like this independent nation that the Empire's like propping up, that used to be part of the Federation, is like doing very well. And there's a lot of concerns. And then the Empire's just vastly crushing it everywhere they go. Every time they hit anything, they win. And it's like the Federation they have millions and millions of people, but eventually those resources run out, right? So there's some issues with that. So there's some of that. I mean, there's a lot of spinning the wheels, I feel like, in this book. It's like it goes through the winter, but like we really can't conduct winter warfare. Like Tanya's bunkered down, then she heads back to the Empire, and then there's like a lot of political maneuvering in this book, a lot of setting stuff up and all this stuff. And the book kind of gets to the end, and Tanya's like infuriated because they're pushing for like a spring offensive, and she's like, "This is such a terrible idea. Why are we doing this?" And so she's like headed back. It seems like she's headed back to the Federation front lines to like push in to Muscovy or whatever, Muskov, or whatever they're calling it in this isekai world that's very similar, but with magic, kind of. Good stuff. So let me think. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really comes around. Again, it's a lot of just like chit chat from like the British and the Federation doing stuff, and then the Ildoa thing is like a point of contention for a while, like with Uger going down, and then the two generals talking about it and like game planning it out. And the Empire's not in like a super good state either. They're just like, it's like, man, we have women working on all the factories, and like we still have like the United States essentially just like fucking around over there doing whatever, and like selling goods to like, as a neutral country, selling war goods to like these other people. And they also talk about how the America's kind of like pretty much in a recession, and that they're like hurting really bad, so that it's like they want this war to continue because they're building like aircraft carriers and like selling them to like other countries to kind of keep their like economy up on the like floating. So that's interesting. It's like, I don't know. I like that there's kind of like real world kind of like, this is like an alternative history essentially. But at the same time, I don't read, watch, or whatever this Japanese like manga, anime, light novel stuff because I want alternative history. I want it because I want crazy nonsense. So parts of it I'm just kind of like, what is this? I got 2 more books? All right, I'll finish that up. And there's like 14 light novels, but I only have 8 on audiobooks, so that's what we're going to get through. But it's still decent. This is definitely one of the more boring of the books, but it's still not bad. So yeah, cool. Catch y'all later.